Let me hit you with a truth bomb right now. The story you think you know about global power, about who leads and who follows, that script is outdated. And no one's rewriting it faster or smarter than India. Because while the US was busy protecting the status quo, India was doing something else. It was building, testing, scaling quietly, boldly, and now loudly. India has shocked the USA, not with drama, but with data discipline and disruption. Let me walk you through 6 ways India just flipped the game. When most countries test a new technology, they roll it out in small batches. Silicon Valley companies, for example, often launch a beta version to a few thousand users before scaling up. But India does something radically different. It tests at the scale of a nation. With over 1.4 billion people, India has turned its massive population into what global tech experts now call the world's largest live laboratory. This isn't just theory. When India launched UPI, Unified Payments Interface, it wasn't piloted in just one city. It was made available across the country almost immediately. The system had to work for everyone from a vegetable vendor in Varanasi to a college student in Bangalore. And it did. That kind of rollout is unheard of in the West. What's more shocking is how reliably it scaled and how quickly Indians adopted it. Today, UPI handles more transactions per month than most Western digital payment systems combined. This same approach applies to e-governance, health tech, and even educational apps. India's Cowi vaccination portal managed hundreds of millions of registrations, bookings, and digital certificates in real time. With almost no downtime, US tech leaders were stunned at the performance, speed, and resilience of these platforms. And here's the real surprise. Companies across the US and Europe are now studying India's tech rollouts. Why? Because India isn't just innovating, it's proving those innovations under stress conditions that mimic the future of global internet usage. Messy, multilingual, mobile first, and decentralized. In short, India didn't need to catch up to the West. It created its own model, one that Silicon Valley never predicted, but is now learning from. And that, more than anything, has shaken assumptions in boardrooms across the US. In recent years, India has quietly transformed the way its military uses technology, particularly artificial intelligence. While much of the global focus has been on US-China advancements, India has been developing its own homegrown defense tech ecosystem, one that's starting to turn heads in Washington. The Indian Army is no longer relying solely on foreign imports. It is partnering with Indian startups and defense innovators to create AI-driven solutions tailored for its unique terrain, threats, and strategic goals. One of the most impressive examples is the deployment of AI systems along India's northern borders, where real-time surveillance is vital. Using a combination of drone swarms, thermal imaging, and facial recognition powered by indigenous algorithms, the Indian military can now detect movement, identify threats, and even predict suspicious patterns in high-risk areas like Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh. This is not science fiction. It's already in use. What's even more remarkable is that much of this technology is being built not by legacy defense giants, but by nimble Indian startups operating under programs like Innovations for Defense Excellence, IDX. The shift is significant because it reflects India's larger strategic pivot, self-reliance in critical technologies. The US has taken notice, not only because of the sophistication of these systems, but because India is achieving them on a fraction of the budget Western militaries operate with. American defense analysts were especially surprised by how rapidly India moved from idea to implementation, without years of red tape. This isn't just about building smart weapons. It's about building a smarter defense strategy, one that combines traditional military strength with digital intelligence. India is redefining what modern warfare looks like in the 21st century. And in doing so, it has surprised even the most experienced minds in global defense circles. While the world's attention has often been fixed on flashy space missions or high-profile launches from NASA or SpaceX, India has been executing a quieter, far more strategic space program. Over the past few years, the Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, has been deploying a fleet of small, efficient satellites into orbit. These satellites aren't meant to grab headlines. They're designed to serve very specific, high-impact functions, from weather tracking and agricultural data collection to national security and defense communication. What shocked many in the U.S. defense and tech communities was the precision and frequency of these satellite launches. India has mastered the art of launching multiple satellites in a single mission at minimal cost. For example, its PSLV, Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, once placed over 100 satellites into orbit in a single flight, a world record at the time. But beyond the numbers, it's the purpose behind these satellites that matters. Some are focused on rural internet connectivity, helping bridge the digital divide in India's remote regions. Others are used for border monitoring and geospatial intelligence, contributing to India's internal security and disaster management systems. India's strategy is not about showcasing power. It's about building capability without noise. That's what has caught the U.S. off guard. There was no big announcement, no huge budget reveal, but satellite by satellite, India has been building a robust space-based infrastructure that supports everything from civilian services to strategic defense. American analysts now see India as more than just a space-faring nation. They see a country mastering the integration of space tech into everyday governance and national strategy, all done with an efficiency and speed few nations, even with larger budgets, have managed to match. India's approach to energy is shifting gears faster than many expected. And it's beginning to disrupt global assumptions, especially in the United States. For decades, India was seen as a developing nation heavily dependent on coal and oil. But in recent years, it has quietly launched one of the most ambitious clean energy transitions in the world. Massive solar parks are now powering entire cities and industrial zones. Rooftop solar programs are expanding in both urban and rural areas. And the government has introduced policy mechanisms that incentivize renewable adoption at a scale few nations have achieved. But what truly surprised global energy experts was India's discovery of significant lithium reserves in Jammu and Kashmir. Lithium, often called white gold, is critical for manufacturing electric vehicle batteries and energy storage systems. Until now, the global lithium supply was dominated by a few countries, particularly China and Australia. India entering this game changes everything. With domestic lithium sources, India can now move from being a buyer of battery technology to a self-sufficient producer, which could dramatically reduce its dependency on foreign supply chains. At the same time, India's EV sector is booming. Startups and legacy automakers alike are building electric two-wheelers, cars, and buses tailored to Indian roads and consumer needs. Charging infrastructure is expanding rapidly in both metro cities and smaller towns. Public transport fleets are being converted to electric at an accelerating pace. What shocked observers in the U.S. wasn't just India's commitment to clean energy, it was the speed, scale, and homegrown innovation driving the transition. India is not just reacting to climate change. It is positioning itself as a future global leader in clean energy technology, while challenging long-standing assumptions about who controls the next generation of power. Across the rural heartlands of India, something extraordinary is happening, something that has quietly begun to rewrite the rules of the global tech economy. In villages once cut off from digital infrastructure, young people are now writing code, building mobile apps, and launching online businesses. This shift isn't driven by imported models from Silicon Valley. It's driven by local opportunity, government support, and a deep hunger for change. Thanks to programs like BharatNet, which has extended fiber optic internet to over 250,000 village councils, and digital literacy initiatives such as PMGDIC, millions of rural Indians are now not just online, they are participating in the digital economy. Young developers in states like Bihar, Odisha, and Madhya Pradesh are learning coding languages, building tools, and offering freelance services to clients around the world. What used to be considered a tech desert is now becoming a hub of low-cost, high-efficiency digital talent. U.S. companies long used to recruiting from major Indian cities like Bengaluru and Hyderabad are now seeing talent emerge from places they never mapped. And this talent isn't just replicating global trends, it's solving hyperlocal problems. Fintech apps for farmers, educational platforms in regional languages, and health services tailored for remote areas. What shocked many in the US is that this digital revolution is rising from the fields, not the boardrooms. India's countryside is no longer just agricultural. It's becoming digital, entrepreneurial, and increasingly global in its reach and ambition. For a long time, the global internet was built on the assumption that English was the default language of digital engagement. That assumption shaped how platforms were designed, how content was created, and how user experiences were delivered. But India has turned that assumption on its head. With over 20 official languages and hundreds of dialects, India is building a multilingual internet ecosystem that is rapidly reshaping how people connect, consume, and create online content. Today, over 500 million Indians use the internet in regional languages like Hindi, Tamil, Bengali, Telugu, Marathi, and more. Platforms like YouTube, ShareChat, Daily Hunt, and Moj have exploded in popularity by catering to non-English speakers. This has created a new kind of digital user, not confined to metro cities or elite English-speaking circles. They are farmers watching agri-tech videos in Bhojpuri, homemakers following financial advice in Tamil, and teenagers creating viral dance content in Punjabi. This wasn't just a cultural shift, it was a market shock. Western tech companies had underestimated the scale and influence of India's regional internet users. As a result, Indian startups began leading the charge, building apps and services tailored for this diverse linguistic audience. Even global giants like Google and Meta were forced to adapt, investing in local language AI, Hindi voice search, and regional creator programs. India flipped the narrative. Instead of conforming to the Western model, it built its own, a Bharat-first, multilingual, culturally rich internet. This model is now being studied as the future for other emerging markets. In the process, India didn't just expand access. It redefined what the internet could look like when it truly reflects its people. Let's step back for a moment. We've just walked through 6 powerful real-world shifts. None of them theoretical. None of them future projections. These are happening right now, reshaping how the world views India, and perhaps even how India views itself. This isn't the India that was once seen only as a back office to the West. It's not just the land of call centers and cheap labor. This is a redefined India One that shocks the status quo because it has stopped waiting for permission. It has begun to lead on its own terms. India turned its massive population into a national strength, a live testing ground for some of the world's most ambitious digital platforms. Where others feared chaos at scale, India found innovation through scale. In defense, it chose not to be loud, but smart. Using indigenous AI, border surveillance, and startup collaboration, the Indian Army is not mimicking the US or China. It's creating a strategy that's uniquely its own, and the world is noticing. India's silent satellite strategy wasn't designed to impress headlines. It was built to strengthen infrastructure, rural internet, weather tracking, defense communication, all being handled by satellites launched quietly, efficiently, and frequently. That's real power. Not the kind you see on TV, but the kind that supports a nation's future. Then came the energy shift, solar cities and lithium. For decades, the narrative was that India was lagging behind in climate responsibility. Now, it's not just catching up, it's preparing to lead. And it's doing so with a homegrown model that's sustainable, scalable, and strategic. But perhaps the most overlooked revolution is in rural India. Teenagers writing code from villages. Women running digital startups from home. What happens next? India isn't done shocking the world. This is just the opening act. Like, share, subscribe. If you found this story powerful, if you're proud of the rise, the resilience, and the reinvention of India, then you already know what to do. Like this video, if it changed how you see India. Comment below with what shocked you the most. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel, because we're just getting started. More untold stories. More bold truths. More India unfiltered. This is the new India, and the world better be ready.